You can have a desire to be a prophet, a pastor, or an apostle, or an entrepreneur, or a politician, and neglect to pray through. You'll find that you will live this life and die without fulfilling what God has placed inside you. You can have a seed of mango, and if you don't create an environment for that seed to express itself into a tree, you will remain with the seed, and you will also think there is nothing you have lost. This is what has happened to many believers. They have kept the desire in a seed form instead of creating prayer as an environment for it to grow. The desire has remained a desire, and because they don't know how far that talent, that gift, that calling, that ministry could have taken them, they are regretting of nothing. But I have news for you. That same desire, if it grows, it can produce a great destiny. Some of you are global icons, but as long as the seed of desire is not watered by prayer, is not given the right nutrition by the word of God, is not given the right environment of the sunlight, which is his presence, that desire remains a desire, and you would even think you haven't lost anything in your life.
We are continuing with the Night of Prayer with Reverend Dr. Clement Nkoma. Now, Dr. Nkoma will teach on prayer and talent, gift and calling.
So as we continue praying tonight, we want to pray for gifts, ministries, and talents. There is so many people in this world who know and have discovered their gifts, their ministry, their calling, and their talents. And I have seen so many people who have discovered their gifts and talents, and they remained non-entities. What was the problem? The problem is that they did not know how to handle their talent, their gifts, their calling, and their ministry. There is a place of hard work. There is a place of discipline. But how many of you know that the word has said that if the Lord does not build the house, they labor in vain? You see, this is where the challenge is. Many people have mastered the outward activities, not knowing that the outward activities are just leaves. They must be backed by roots, which is the spiritual realities. Now, before God starts anything with your life, whether gift, talent, mission, calling, whatever, he will place a desire inside your heart. There is no ministry, there is no talent, there is no gift or calling that can flow without desire. You see, we are not trying to say that every desire reveals what God has placed in your life. No, but the other side of it is true. God, every time he puts something in your heart, he will also put a desire. I'll give you my personal experience. I have had a desire of knowledge for a long time. It didn't start when I was a teacher. Do you know that I used to finish the newspaper reading it when I was maybe in standard 3 or 4? I mean reading the newspapers. Why? I had this unstoppable desire to know things. Do you know that most of my secondary schools during holidays, I would go to the library and I would always read from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock. Now, I will go outside and do what I call sunbasking. Then I would come back from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock and read any other thing that I desire to read, whether it is space science, everything, geography, history. Why? I had this unstoppable desire for knowledge. I remember there was a time when I was just weeded from Chancellor College. I went to visit my brother in Area 18, where I spent maybe 3 weeks or a month. I finished the New Testament every day. What is that? Desire. When I was in Botswana, I had close to 200 books. I used to go to South Africa to buy books. Can you imagine that? What is that? Desire. Now, that desire is the one that produced a teacher of the word. I read. My life, if you ask me what I do with my life, I will tell you I read a lot and I also pray. So I read a lot. I read a lot. If you find me on the phone, if you don't know me, you will think maybe I'm on WhatsApp or on Facebook. No, 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 no. I am reading things. Online alone, I have close to 1,700 books. That's why I give these weekly books of the month. Why? Because I am a reader. But God put the desire for knowledge because He knew that He wanted me to be a teacher of the Word. So it flows with my calling. So God will put a seed of desire in your life. Now that's talent, seed, calling, mission, passion that God has put in your life is called a desire. Now this desire needs to be birthed in prayer, needs to be grown to its fullness through prayer. That's why many people have had things that seemed like wishes. It was a desire, but it lacked the birthing forth into manifestation. That's why there are people who have talked of what they want to become for years, and nothing is happening. Why? Because they did not know how to grow the seed into manifestation. And how do you do it? You start with prayer. Prayer is the place where you birth your desire into manifestation. I'll give you a good example. Before we started Powerhouse in Malawi, I remember twice my dad phoned me. The second one is my mom. They asked me, "You have spent almost 6 months in Malawi. Why are you not starting a church?" I said, "I don't think I should start a church now." But what was I doing that time? I was going to the mountain every day with my wife. Why? I was birthing the calling in Malawi. You can have a desire to be a prophet, a pastor, or an apostle, or an entrepreneur, or a politician, and neglect to pray through. You'll find that you will live this life and die without fulfilling what God has placed inside you. I have discovered in this life we have two kinds of people. There are people who pray a lot, aimlessly, no desire, no nothing they are pursuing in the spirit. All they are doing is praying. Now these people, they waste a lot of our time. So desire must be combined with prayer for you to see the fulfillment of that great destiny that God has put in your life. You can have a seed of mango, and if you don't create an environment for that seed to express itself into a tree, you will remain with the seed and you will also think there is nothing you have lost. This is what has happened to many believers. They have kept the desire in a seed form instead of creating prayer as an environment for it to grow. The desire has remained a desire, and because they don't know how far that talent, that gift, that calling, that ministry could have taken them, they are regretting of nothing. But I have news for you. That same desire, if it grows, it can produce a great destiny. Some of you are global icons. But as long as the seed of desire is not watered by prayer, is not given the right nutrition by the word of God, is not given the right environment of the sunlight, which is His presence, that desire remains a desire, and you would even think you haven't lost anything in your life. But I have come to challenge you tonight that you need to enter into seasons of prayer, starting with today, until that seed begins to express itself into a tree. 1 Corinthians 12:28 says, "And God has set some of them to be apostles, prophets, teachers, miracles, then gifts of healings, then governments, then design, then diversities of tongues." Verse 31. "But covet earnestly the best gifts, and yet I show you a more excellent way. And covet earnestly." Let's look at another translation. BBE says, "But let your desires be turned." Let your desire. It uses the word desire. ISV says, "Keep on desiring." NHEB says, "But earnestly desire." You see, you cannot manifest the gift, the talent, the calling, the assignment God has for your life if you don't earnestly earnestly desire it. You need to desire it. That's why even Mark 11:24 puts it this way. Mark 11:24, what does it say? It says there, I will read the King James. Therefore I say unto you, what things soever you desire when you pray. You see, prayer does not just start with utterance. Prayer starts with desire. No desire, prayer has not started. Do you know that many believers are comfortable with what I call minimal Christian life? This is a Christianity where you pray half an hour, you read the Bible half an hour, you are not living in sin, you are not missing any Sunday service. It is good, but it is minimal. But there are things that you will never discover concerning your life until you begin to nurture the desire. I remember there was a time I used to do overnights from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock. I reached a level when I was praying, I would see smoke in the room. Yes. And that time, I was not even preparing for anything. It was just the desire to be in His presence. That was a time I used to go for overnight prayers every day from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock. I did that for a long stretch. What was that? It was birthing the desire. Do you know that if I did not push in the Spirit, do you know that I would have just remained a successful chartered accountant? By now, this year I was supposed to be a governor of Reserve Bank. I would have been a governor of Reserve Bank by this year and enjoyed life big time. But when we got to heaven, I'll have been told that I did not fulfill my destiny. So many believers, let's not settle for convenience. There is more in your life, but you need to start nurturing the desires that God is giving you. And many people say God has not spoken. You can't hear God while you are still carnal. God is a spirit, and you need to enter into the spirit for you to hear God. That's why one of the topics I've said there, prayer and the spirit world. So it's desire combined with prayer that will give birth to what God has for your life. I don't believe anything can be built that God has placed inside you without a straight period of prayer to give birth to it. I remember when we started Powerhouse, 3 months, Monday to Friday, we were in the mountain with my wife. The desire must grow so much inside you that you cannot live anymore without it. It will burn so much and it will bring you to a place of prayer. Even Christian entrepreneurship, you must reach a place where you are so angry to see that churches are struggling with finances, and that anger builds a desire to be a billionaire for the kingdom advancement. Now you take that desire and you push it in prayer. God will begin to give you wisdom. God will begin to give you all this. Now, as I said before, there is so many people who are praying without any desire. That's also a waste of time. You need to have a desire. It might be very small, but as you pray, you'll find that things will begin to rise inside you, or actually some things will begin to die inside you because of prayer. A good example is in 1 Kings chapter 3, where Elisha wanted a double of what Elijah had. Elijah tried to discourage him, but Elisha pursued and was persistent. Why? The strength of your desire will consume your life. You will live for nothing else but to fulfill the desire that God has put inside you. In Acts 13, verse 1 to 3, you find that the people are praying and God speaks, separate for me Barnabas and Paul. You see, things are revealed. Ministries, gifts, talents are revealed in the place of prayer. Catherine Kuhlman, she was so upset every time she goes for these healing crusades to see how many people are not healed. She would come away from the crusade and start crying to God, say, oh God, where are you in these crusades? Why are so many people not healed? That burning desire produced a ministry that transformed the way healing is done. What am I saying? There is something about your life that can only be birthed through prayer. You haven't discovered yourself in your life until you enter into prayer and you begin to nurture the desires, the seed of desire that God has put inside you through prayer, and you give birth to it. That's when hard work begins to profit your life. Shalom, shalom, shalom.
Reverend Clement Nkoma teaching on prayer and talent, gift and calling.